We've got breaking news out of college football. Ohio State head coach Ryan Day has signed a new 7-year contract that will pay him $12.5 million per year. Day has a 70-10 record with the Buckeyes and is, of course, fresh off leading OSU to their first national title since 2014. He's now signed in Columbus through the 2031 season. Ohio State will open up their title defense on August 30th when they take on Texas at the Shoe. We're now bringing our college football expert, Chip Patterson, for even more on this news. And, Chip, I feel like if we went back like a month and a half ago or however long it's been since that Michigan loss, I know Buckeyes fans who were ready to see Ryan Day get the axe if he didn't win the national championship. He does. Now he gets an extension. Is this just the normal roller coaster ride we expect?
Well, at Ohio State, the demand is win the Big Ten, beat Michigan, win a national championship. You got to do one of those three things or else everyone's going to want you out. But in winning the national championship, the program's ninth. Yes, Ryan Day now receives what I think, Zach, is a deserved raise, deserved contract security, that if Ohio State does want to make a move on Ryan Day, it will be costly and it will set Ryan Day up for the rest of his career. Ryan Day was able to endure all of this vitriol from the Ohio State fans while still having one of the most impressive winning percentages in all of college football. He is 46-5 against Big Ten competition. And everybody's going to talk about those 4 losses to Michigan, but that kind of consistency is something that we did not even see in the Urban Meyer era at Columbus. He is now 70-10 overall. And when we start to think about where Ryan Day ranks among all the coaches in the college football, that he is a top 2 coach in college football. And so now with this new contract length of 7 years, with this new contract payment where he is set to make about $12.5 million annually, he now has a contract that is in line with that status of being a top 2 coach in the sport.
So if Ryan Day is in the top 2 and let's say he's not 1, who is 1?
I'd say Kirby Smart still. I mean, he's got 2 rings. Ryan Day just got his first, but that conversation is now up and ongoing. And I think that the fact that Ryan Day now is finally able to get these flowers sort of eliminates the third base talk. Remember, like Jim Harbaugh getting under Ryan Day's skin, the idea that he inherited a program that was already experiencing success, the idea that he had inherited a program that was less than a decade away from a national championship. What he was able to do with the Buckeyes, specifically in the playoff run, to go from that Michigan loss and go through what I think was the toughest possible path that any one team could have had to go win the national championship, when you had to take out Oregon, when you had to take out Texas, and then eventually one of the hottest teams in the playoff, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think Ohio State at the end of the year finally proved to be what we expected them to be at the beginning of the season. It is the true monster in college football, the dominant team everyone was looking for. Now, it took 12 games before we got there, but Ryan Day, what he was able to do, coaching that team, preparing them for the playoff run, that sometimes you get a contract extension because everybody else wants a piece and it's about your future. This contract extension, to me, is more of him getting what he should have maybe already gotten prior to the playoff run.
I'm curious, and I just want to play the what-if situation. Are we having this conversation here right now if Notre Dame was able to squeak out a win and take that national championship and Ohio State doesn't get it?
No, absolutely not. I think that for Ryan Day, each one of those games was his future was seemingly hanging in the balance. Not that he would have necessarily been fired, except for the Tennessee game. If he had lost at home to Tennessee with Orange fans everywhere, maybe. But I think at every step of the way, the Oregon game, the Texas game, and yes, even that Notre Dame game, at that point, when we had gotten to the final game of the season in Atlanta, the advantages that the Buckeyes had shown, to lose that game would have been a massive disappointment. To lose that game would not have been met with a new 7-year deal at $12.5 million annually. This was a title or bust playoff run. And I think that in sports, Zach, we like to see our figures put through that adversity. We like to see our coaches, our players have to go through those challenges. And then when we see them on the other side, we reward them as champions. They get their trophies. They get that status. And now from Ohio State, they get the money.
Yeah, and he's a young head coach at that, only 45 years old, the second youngest to win a national title since Urban Meyer did it with my Gators back in 2008. I'm so thankful for that. My freshman year at UF was a great time. Great times maybe still to come in the future for Ohio State, but their offense, at least we know who's going to be heading that up with Brian Hartline getting the promotion to be named the offensive coordinator. You look at this offense, and do you have any questions, any reservations with the job going over to Hartline? Do you think he'll call the plays?
Well, he's a wide receivers coach, which means that he probably has an intimate knowledge of the best thing Ohio State's offense can do, which is give the ball to wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, one of the best daggum players in the sport at any position. I am interested in the play calling aspect of this. Ryan Day was still very hands-on with the play calling as Kevin Wilson was an offensive coordinator, and Brian Hartline was working his way up in terms of seniority on the staff. Ryan Day takes his hands off of play calling when Chip Kelly comes in. They win a national championship. Now that we are promoting internally, does that mean that Ryan Day is going to take over the play calling again? My hunch would be yes, just because Brian Hartline is still so early on in his coaching career and Ryan Day has so much experience in that role. But ultimately, there was a philosophical change for Ohio State when they hit the playoff run. The idea that they didn't need to prove themselves as a tough team in any way. They can simply put the ball in the hands of their playmakers and let those playmakers go make plays. I expect the Buckeyes will be doing that again. They do have to change out the quarterback. They do have to go and change out some offensive line pieces, but the wide receiver room is still locked and loaded. Jeremiah Smith, still the star of that. So as Brian Hartline is elevated from just being a wide receivers coach to offensive coordinator, my expectation is that that long run of Ohio State wide receivers that the Buckeyes have enjoyed throughout Ryan Day's tenure, that will still be a focal point of the offense.
Still need to figure out who the defensive coordinator will be. So when you look at that side of the ball, what do you think will happen there?
I think that they should go out and try to get the biggest, splashiest, best defensive coordinator that they can do, because that's what they did when they got Jim Knowles. And Jim Knowles was able to really show what he can do with the way that Ohio State defense was rushing the passer in the playoff run. Sacks after sacks after sacks. The pressures were able to allow the rest of that Ohio State defense to really put opponents in some third and long scenarios that made it difficult for them to be able to keep up with Ohio State's offense. And when you lose Jim Knowles to Penn State, I think the response should be to go out there as Ohio State, act like the big dog you are, and try to go poach somebody who can come in and be able to match that. Now, here's the issue, Zach, because they need to replace the defensive coordinator, but they've got to replace a ton of production on the defensive side of the ball. And while they recruit well, I mean, they are Ohio State. The figures, the experience, the starts and the sacks and the tackles that are gone when you lose as much as they are the seniors and juniors from this Ohio State defense, there's going to be a lot of turnover on that side of the ball. So yeah, we are going to be replacing the defensive coordinator. I would go out and get the best DC that money can buy. But if we want to talk about real expectations for the Buckeyes in 2025, I think there's a lot of unknown on the defensive side of the ball, and that's going to be only more pressure on Ryan Day, more pressure on Brian Hartline, more pressure on Julian Sayin or whoever ends up winning that quarterback battle to make sure the Buckeyes have one of the best offenses in the country. Because when you're losing Tyleik Williams, Jack Sawyer, JTT, and the rest of those upperclassmen from the Buckeyes defense, I don't know if they're going to be right back to silver bullet status. So Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, and this offense need to be productive if they're going to make another run at the title in 25.
The cupboard, though, shouldn't be lacking for talent, though, because they are bringing in the #4 overall ranked team when it comes to recruiting in that class of 2025. So still a lot of pieces, and blue chippers will be headed to Columbus. Chip Patterson, thank you so much as Ryan Day gets his payday, and probably well-deserved, because you see the things that he has done in his short career at just 45 years old. He's already won a natty, and that 70-10 career record is the second best win percentage by an FBS head coach all time, with a minimum of 50 games played. So he's done it all. Has struggled against Michigan, but you got a natty along the way, and he'll be sticking around for quite some time.